With Super Mario Odyssey released, we now have tons of new things to comb through. As someone who absolutely loves overthinking Mario games, this was surely an opportunity I couldn't pass up. However, there was something interesting about this game that made me think back to the older games. Now, for those of you who watched my previous theory videos, one of the things I focused on in the past were the paintings found in the Mario universe. Whether we're ghosts being trapped in them, or the fact that they took you to foreign lands, there was a lot to wonder about. I even hypothesized on the true origins, being derived from certain areas in the Mario world. However, in some of the footage leading up to Super Mario Odyssey's release, we were given glimpses of paintings very similar to Super Mario 64's. Now that the game is out, we can even see how similar they actually are, and what exactly happens from the time Mario enters a painting to the time he exits one. It's quite the interesting visual. As a kid playing Super Mario 64, I always wondered what was happening when we jumped into a painting. The only time we ever caught a glimpse of what may have been occurring was when we entered certain levels in Super Mario Sunshine. Within a white void, Bowser Jr. steals FLUDD from us, and then we start the level. However, this in-between world that was completely stark white was always odd to me. Bowser Jr. seems to be cut from existence the moment he sees his FLUDD. And the next thing we know, the level begins. Now, I'm not the only one who thought this whole concept was confusing. My friend Gaming Reinvented was also always bothered by this, and he lent me a hand with this video. But what exactly is happening when Mario enters these paintings or wet paint? It has been a topic that has never really gone away, and with Odyssey it is now relevant all over again. I've hypothesized what this paint is based off of in past videos, but let's take a moment to quickly recap its properties. First and foremost, it can teleport you. We see this in a great deal of Mario games. A derivative of paint can also be used as prisons for ghosts, or certain jolly plumbers. It can also bring creatures to life, whether as a ghost or physically. Lastly, it can put people in perpetual stasis if they aren't completely consumed by it. Obviously, it has transformative properties in terms of creation, and it also has the power to transport people from one location to another. However, it has one property that we have not discussed before, and it was something I certainly looked over in my past videos. When you enter a portal in Super Mario 64, you typically choose the star you want to pursue. You then navigate and battle your way to your prize. Once you accomplish this, you rinse and repeat with the next star. But a few levels in particular shed some light on what may actually be happening when you go through this process. Let's take Whomp's Fortress for example. When you first start off and have to scale Whomp's Fortress, you will have to defeat the giant boss on top in order to work towards different stars in the area. However, once he's defeated, something interesting happens. A tower is built in his place. Now obviously this tower would take some time to build, but upon selecting your next star, it is on top of the fortress. The same goes for when you revive the sunken ship in Jolly Roger's Bay. It remains risen for the remainder of the stars. If you go back to an earlier star though, the effects of this progress are reversed. The ship is sunken, and Whomp reclaims his fortress. So not only does his paint grant the power to transport people to other locations, but it also has the ability to travel people back in time. The world's timeline is captured within the paint itself, and this is why you're able to jump around as you please. Now of course, this immediately brings up some outliers though. People may say Koopa the Quick remembers you from previous races, and that Bowser's submarine should still be present at Dire Dire Docks when you reload the first star, despite it not being there after you defeat Bowser a second time. Side note here, I always hated that Bowser's submarine vanished for the remainder of the game. I felt like I had to start a new save file just to preserve that level. Like, where did it go? It's massive, and even if it could somehow fit through this much too small door, it simply leads out to the small lake in front of the castle. Also, does anyone else think the Bowser icon looks like the Bowser from Hotel Mario? Just saying. Anyways, I think the reason why these things vanish are because time is saved incrementally for each location. When you leave, time resets for that interval. The 6 stars define 6 points in time. When you pick one, you start at the point that time started being recorded for the interval. However, Bowser and Koopa the Quick are external factors. Just like Mario, they can come and go through the paintings as they please. Anything they bring with them doesn't actually leave a mark on the world. This is why Koopa the Quick remembers you for future races, and also why the submarine disappears once Bowser is defeated. It was an added layer on top of a world that was already set in an established timeline. Springing over to Super Mario Odyssey, this also makes sense. When you travel through paintings, you have the ability to fight bosses again that you've already defeated. You can see a glimpse of the world you're traveling to before jumping into the painting like the previous games. But it's also a frozen state of time. Normally you can't battle these bosses again, but through these paintings you're able to. So even in this iteration of Mario's latest adventure, these portals still hold a similar effect. However, there are still some problems with this idea. This principle isn't mirrored exactly across the entire Mario series. Other notable areas with paintings are Wario Land 4 and Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door. In both of these examples, the player has to retrieve objects from within paintings and bring them out of it. But there are certainly some outliers that make us question if time travel is happening all the time. If we swing back over to Super Mario Odyssey, it is worth noting that while a decent amount of paintings take you to instanced areas that don't offer further exploration, there are some that allow you to get back to the root world. Technically, if time travel took place, the entire world would then be a past version of itself, which is certainly not the case. This is further debatable because if we swing back over to Super Mario 64 and select Jolly Roger's Bay for the first time, you actually get a fog-covered level. However, this fog goes away and never appears again on the same save file if you collect a star. Technically, if it was 100% an instanced world, it should always be the same every time we go there. One could also argue that games like Super Mario Galaxy allow you to repeat things, but necessarily don't involve jumping into time-traveling paintings. However, I suppose someone could also argue that perhaps Mario and Luigi were blasting through wormholes on the way to levels that could aid in why time is fixed. That's a stretch, but then again, this whole concept could be one as well. Super Mario Sunshine becomes pretty interesting though if this is what is happening. Technically, the whole island could be in time bubbles that you hop between. Perhaps when Shadow Mario steals FLUDD in select areas, he simply leaves it right outside the portal on the ground. When Mario returns to the present moment, he picks it up. This would also explain how time progresses on certain levels like Gelato Beach. The Watermelon Festival comes to mind as it occurs only so often. All in all though, while time traveling appears to be taking place when Mario enters paintings, there are still some continuity issues with the concept. Perhaps not all paintings have this property, and it really depends on the nature of the paint it was made with. If EGAD is a prominent source for magical paint to begin with, it wouldn't be too far of a stretch to say he also dabbled with making it bend time too. I mean, it isn't the first time he's done that. He's literally been all over the place. But now that I've dumped that on all of you, I'd of course love to hear your thoughts. Do you think the Mario games dabble in the realm of time travel despite not actually making it clear? What is your explanation for how these things occur? Of course, one can always say it's just a game, and dismiss it all. But where's the fun in that? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I want to give a huge shout out to Gaming Reinvented for helping me with this video. He was the one who originally proposed the whole time travel element in regards to the magical paintings in the Mario universe. Combining our knowledge together is always a treat, as we've done so on a few videos in the past. He's currently changing the direction of his channel to be more analysis based, so I highly recommend swinging over to his YouTube channel to give it a gander. There will be a link at the end of this video and in the description below. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this time-traveling voyage. Perhaps some of these other videos will tickle your fancy. There's a ton of Mario goodness on this channel. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers.